Most people who end up reaching their fitness and physique goals, they don't get there by accident. They're not going through their day winging what they're going to eat. They have a full plan of how they're going to train, when they're going to go to sleep, and probably most importantly, what they're going to eat throughout the day. Waking up and wondering, I wonder what I'll be in the mood for dinner tonight is not a recipe for success. So what we're going to be doing today is making a full meal plan of 7 breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and snacks to help you reach your goals as a vegan. This meal plan clocks in at about 1,800 calories and 120 grams of protein. And if you would like a copy of all the recipes we're going to be making today, along with a full shopping list so that you can make it the same, just go ahead and click the link below and we will email you a copy of it. And if you're wondering, hey, 1,800 calories and 120 grams of protein is not my goal, don't worry. There's tips in the document to tell you how to pare these recipes down or bulk them up depending on your own personal needs. This meal plan comes straight from our Muscles by Brussels membership. We do a new one of these every single month for our members, so the longer you're a member, the more of these you can collect. And if you're interested in that, we have a free 1-month trial of that down below as well. Let's get into it. Let's get started by making this delicious chickpea omelet that I've filled with mushrooms, onions, and spinach. I wanted to show you guys a trick on how I cut onions easily. First, cut the top end off and peel it. Then cut through the root at the bottom. We're gonna cut lengthwise through it towards the root, but we're not actually gonna cut through the root. We wanna keep that intact. That's how we're gonna get perfectly diced onions without them slipping around. Then spin the onion and cut it crosswise, getting close to the root, but not all the way through it. And that's gonna prevent everything from slipping around. In a saute pan over medium heat, spritz it with some cooking spray, and I'm just gonna saute the vegetables that I intend to put in my omelet. This is gonna prevent them from going into the omelet raw and then cooking and releasing all of their juices, giving you a runny omelet. So whatever veggies you're choosing to cook, just check on them, stir them around, and if you're using any leafy greens like I am with this spinach here, put that in as a last step. I'm gonna sprinkle it pretty generously with some salt here. And I'm just gonna cover it, and I've basically shut the heat off at this point to just let it wilt. And once those are all cooked and wilted, I'm gonna set them aside. Now it's time for us to make our chickpea omelet batter. So I'm going to blend up 2 bricks of tofu in my food processor, adding water as I go to get it to a nice smooth consistency. So in total for this recipe, I used about 3 cups of water, and I used about 1.5 to 2 cups in the processor itself to get it to the consistency that I wanted it to be in. And once that is nice and smooth, I'm gonna set it aside. In a large bowl, I'm going to add 2.5 cups of chickpea flour, a scant cup of nutritional yeast, 3.5 teaspoons of turmeric, which I didn't have enough of, so I just used whatever I had left in this container, 3.5 teaspoons of garlic powder, 3.5 teaspoons of onion powder, 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and I'm gonna mix that all together. Once that's all mixed, I'm going to add my tofu mixture and start to stir. Basically, I want this to end up the consistency of pancake batter, so I recommend keeping the rest of that water nearby and just adding as much as you need to get to that desired consistency. Total for me in this recipe was 3 cups, including what I put into the blended tofu. Back in my cast iron skillet, I am pouring about 1.5 cups of batter into the pan and spreading it around with the back of a spoon. And I am just going to let this cook for about 2 to 5 minutes until it starts to look kind of dried out like it does here. And that's when I'm gonna add my omelet veggies and about 1/8 of a cup of vegan cheese. This is where you've gotta be tricky. You're gonna use your spatula and just fold that sucker in half. Throw a cover on it and let it cook for another 2 to 3 minutes. This will allow the cheese to melt, which is really all we need because the veggies are already cooked. Then you're just gonna repeat that exact same cooking process 6 more times so that you have 7 beautiful omelets for the week. Let's move on to our parfait, which is gonna be our snack. I'm using 𝐃𝐨𝐲 Cinnamon Crunch here. I know you guys are all shocked. And I'm putting about 2 tablespoons at the bottom of a glass, jar, bowl, whatever you have. And then I'm using about 1/4 cup of Greek-style yogurt here. If I'm being honest, this is not the Greek-style yogurt because I couldn't find it in the store near me and I didn't have any made, so I had to use regular vanilla yogurt. So it looks a little runnier than normal. Then I'm gonna put about 1/4 cup of mixed berries, and I'm just using frozen berries here. So you could use fresh or frozen. Repeat the process with your granola of choice. I like the 𝐃𝐨𝐲 because it's high in protein. Then your yogurt. And then your berries. We're gonna top it with a teaspoon of chia seeds, and I'm just gonna sprinkle a little more of my granola on top just as a garnish here. Very cute. And this is just the perfect size for a little snack to tide you over between breakfast and lunch. Let's move on to our lunch. So I'm gonna start by making some tofu feta, and I'm using Hodo extra firm tofu, the best tofu I have ever had. And if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. Okay, so for the tofu feta, I'm going to be using 1/4 cup of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of red wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, and then a teaspoon each of oregano, basil, and thyme, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and a teaspoon of salt. And I am gonna mix that all together. Next, I'm gonna crumble with my hands, because I think this gives the best texture, the full block of tofu right into this mixture. And you can't tell from the video, but I actually made this the night before so that it would have a chance to marinate and really absorb all of those flavors. I'm trying to get fairly uniform pieces that remind me of the texture of feta cheese. I'm gonna cover it and shake it around gently to just make sure that it gets totally coated in the marinade. And then I'm just gonna put it in the fridge overnight. Next, moving on to the dressing, I have a little mason jar here, and I'm adding 1/2 cup of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 2 tablespoons of fresh dill, which, oh my goodness, do I love dill, and 'tis the season. Look at that beauty. So I'm just gonna finely chop the fresh dill, but you could use different herbs if you wanted to, like chives or basil. It's entirely up to you and the flavors that you enjoy the most. Herbs are a lot like spinach, where you start with a ton, but as you start chopping away at them, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Just adding those herbs to my mason jar. And then I'm gonna add about 2 teaspoons of Dijon mustard, and 2 cloves of minced garlic. So I'm keeping some of the footage of me chopping these vegetables in here because some of you have told me that that's something that you actually are not great at. You feel like the chopping is a pain in the butt. I would agree, but there are some little tricks of the trade on how to cut some of these things so that it's a little less annoying, like how I just smashed the papers off of the garlic there. So I thought maybe for a video I would show you what that looks like. Let me know if you guys like it or not in the comments. Go ahead and add that to your jar. And then I'm just covering it and shaking the heck out of it till it's totally combined. And once again, I'm gonna let this sit in the fridge overnight as well so that the dill can really infuse the rest of the dressing. All right, so now it is the next day. I have 3 cups of cooked quinoa here that I am just gonna add to a large bowl. And then I'm gonna add some TVP to another bowl here. So this is a cup of TVP that I am going to rehydrate with some hot vegetable broth. This really only needs to sit for a few minutes for it to rehydrate. And then I'm just gonna drain it off. While that's hydrating, I'm going to chop up this huge English cucumber. Next, I'm gonna be cutting into quarters 2 cups of cherry tomatoes. This is kind of a pain in the butt. I feel like there's no easy way around this. I've seen a hack where you slice cherry tomatoes between 2 plates, but I have never actually had that work ever. So if it's worked for you, I'd love to hear about it. And lastly, I'm gonna be dicing up a cup of Kalamata olives, so make sure you get the ones without a pit, or it's gonna be a lot more work. Adding that rehydrated TVP, which I have drained off, so I'm not adding a bunch of extra water there. And I almost forgot to add the chickpeas, which are the very important part of this recipe. So we are adding a full can of rinsed and drained chickpeas and mixing that all up. Now I'm just gonna divide my mixture into 7 containers. So you can see 6 here on the screen because one of them is for my little display at the end. So you could weigh this out and divide it by 7 evenly and get the exact number of grams, but I just sort of eyeball it based on how much it looks like I have. So this came out to be just about 2 tablespoons of the dressing per dish. And then with the tofu, I am also just eyeballing it. So some people like to add the tofu earlier when they're mixing everything else, but because the protein content is important to me, I like to add it at the end so I'm certain that it's pretty evenly divided. All right, now we're moving on to one of my favorites, the high protein trail mix. So we are going to be adding 1 3/4 cup of dry roasted edamame, 1/4 cup of shelled pistachios, 1/4 cup of dried cranberries or craisins, 1/4 cup of raisins, 1/2 cup of mini pretzels, and 1/4 cup of vegan chocolate chips. And then I just use my hands to mix this all together. And I cannot express to you how many times this has saved me in a snacky phase. 1/7 of this is a serving, and each serving has 18 grams of protein, and it is just so good. I couldn't actually keep my hands off of it while I was recording this video. So that should say something. It's really, really good. If you try it, let me know.
Easy peasy.
Moving on to our dinner of baked tofu and vegetables. I want to take a minute here to talk about Hodo tofu. I am really blown away by how good this stuff is. So I had 3 blocks of Hodo and 1 block of the regular stuff that I had been getting from the grocery store for a long time. You can see the regular ones in the top here. And I just want to show you the difference between store-bought extra firm tofu and the Hodo extra firm tofu. So store-bought's on the right. I guess they're both store-bought, but you know what I mean, the regular brand of tofu that I normally get. So I have just 2 cubes and I'm kind of squishing them with the same amount of pressure. And the Hodo is so much more dense. So you can see that the regular brand is like falling apart here while I'm doing the exact same thing to both of them. The bite on this is crazy. It's 14 grams of protein per serving as opposed to 8 grams in the other. So, I mean, I'm not sponsored. This is not a sponsored video or anything like that. If you haven't tried it, if you're like tofu's tofu, Hodo has convinced me that that is not the case. So let's make the marinade here. I have 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 3 tablespoons of maple syrup, 3 teaspoons of garlic powder, 3 teaspoons of onion powder, 3 teaspoons of dried thyme, 3 teaspoons of dried oregano, and then just salt and pepper to taste, which mine really only just needed pepper. And I am just gonna mix that up and toss all of my tofu in there, and then I'm going to gently stir it. But if you're using Hodo tofu, you don't have to stir it quite as gently because I'll show you. Since I have the 1 brick of the other tofu in here, I wanted to show you what happened as I was stirring it. So that one is the regular one. You can already see it's like falling apart. And then we have the Hodo tofu, which is still in a perfect cube. And that was true throughout. So I'm gonna place this on 2 baking sheets because all of the stuff in the dinner, you really don't wanna crowd it while you're roasting it or it'll take forever and it won't cook evenly. So I'm just spreading it out. And again, you can see little crumbly bits in between here, and that is not the Hodo tofu. So I'm blown away by what a difference it is. I'm roasting that at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. And while that's roasting, I am chopping up 2 big heads of broccoli, making sure to cut even florets, and 1 large head of cauliflower, doing the same thing. And I'm putting it in a big bowl, which I am then going to toss together with my hands. And I am just gonna drizzle a little bit of olive oil on here. You really don't need a lot. Salt, pepper, and onion powder, and I'm just gonna toss it 1 more time with my hands here. And this is a lot of vegetable. This is a lot of cooking space we got going on here. So you see I put it on 1 baking sheet and was like, nope, that's not gonna work. Had to put it on 2 baking sheets to spread it out. But this only needs to roast for about 20 minutes before you get that nice crust. So while the tofu and the broccoli is roasting, I'm gonna be peeling my 6 carrots and dicing them into small pieces. And if I could do this again, I would have started with the carrots and potatoes because those take longer to roast. But I didn't think of that at the time, so I'm letting you know now so that when you go to do this part first. And then for the potatoes, I'm doing the exact same thing, the same size as the carrots. But I wanted to show you, if you see any dark spots in your potatoes like this, cut them out because that is the part that tastes really bad. Same thing, drizzling olive oil, salt, pepper, and onion powder, and spreading them out, and that takes about 30 minutes to roast. So this is what the tofu looks like coming out of the oven. It is so delicious and sweet. This is the broccoli and cauliflower, and I actually didn't catch the potatoes and the carrots coming out of the oven. But basically, I'm going to separate them into their own little glass containers, and this is what the full dinner looks like here, and this dinner is 37 grams of protein, especially because I'm using that Hodo tofu. And here is some of the full spread, guys. What an awesome filling meal plan this is gonna be. Well, there you have it, folks. We have made 7 breakfasts, lunches, dinners, and snacks that clocks in at 1860 calories and 120 grams of protein. And again, if you'd like a copy of all of these recipes and the shopping list to go along with it, and tips on how to pair these meals up or down depending on your needs, just go ahead and click the link down below, enter your email, and we'll send it right to you. And if you're looking for any kind of one-on-one coaching, that's what we do here at Vegan Proteins. That's what we have done since 2008. So far, we have helped over 2,500 vegans get in the best shape of their life. And if you would like to be one of those vegans, go ahead and fill out an application. That is also in a link down below, and you will hear back from one of us within a day. Well, this video was actually quite a doozy to make all by myself here. So if you liked it, it would really mean a great deal to me if you would like it, share it with anybody that you think it would be helpful for, subscribe, hit the bell, all the things I'm supposed to tell you to do at the end of a YouTube video. And we will talk to you soon. Bye.